Rena is internationally recognized business coach and consultant with more than 20 years of experience in working with senior executives and entrepreneurs to identify and implement strategies that create growth and profitability. In her role as a coach and strategist, she leads client projects in the areas of executive and corporate coaching, strategic planning, business planning, developing hiring strategies, and employee and leadership development. Some of you would have heard Rena in yesterday's CS Spirit retreat as well. So over to you, Rena.
Just like this. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Huh? Okay, great. Very few people have used this stage, so I've decided I'm going to use it. I've decided you have put it up here especially for me. So, good morning, everybody. Okay, is that the best we can do? Are you feeling sleepy? Did you have too much to drink last night? Yes. Thank you, honest person. Good. You know what? Before we get started, I'm going to do what everybody dreads. I'm going to make you stand up. Everybody stand up. Come on, let's get a good stretch. I know you've had coffee, so come on, let's get the arms up. Come on, take a big stretch. Let's smile. Smile at me. Make me feel happy and welcome. Wave at me. Say good morning. Awesome. Okay, now you can all sit down. Doesn't that feel good? You feel like you woke up a little bit? Good, because I'm going to talk about something today that I know you think about a lot. People. You spend a lot of your day thinking about people? A lot of your day thinking about people. So we're going to talk a little bit. And the title of my speech is a little bit crazy, isn't it? Cultureless culture. Can we actually create cultureless culture? Is it possible to have no culture? Is it possible? Come on, smart people. Is it possible? No, of course it's not, is it? Of course it's not. So what we're going to be talking today is as you're working with all of these multinational teams, and even your own local teams have a lot of flavor, don't they? People from different parts of, if you're in India, different parts of India. If you're in Malaysia, you've got people from India, you've got the Malaysians. So we have culture in multi-facets, don't we? Multi-facets. So we're going to be talking a little bit today about how do you take all that beautiful, rich diversity that we all want, right? Because that gives us lots of different perspectives, lots of different energies. It's interesting, isn't it? For those of us who really enjoy diversity in people, it's very interesting. You learn something all of the time. So what I want to talk about today is how do we take all that beautiful stuff that we want and get it all going in the same direction so that it doesn't cause major disruption in getting done what you need to get done every day. Does that sound like a good thing to talk about this morning? So let's start with the biggest challenge. What's the biggest challenge in your day? And I'm going to make you talk to me today because I know you're sleepy and I want no one falling asleep because I do not want to feel bad. What's your biggest challenge in the day? Getting what? Getting off the bed. Anybody else have that as your biggest challenge, getting off the bed? Okay, Madhur, can we take a 15-minute break because I need to change my PPT? The biggest challenge. Okay, that is a really big problem. What else? What else is your biggest challenge? Yeah. People, there was one hand here, yeah? Okay, communication. Convincing your daughter. Anybody else have problems convincing children that you must go to work? So what else? From all the way in the back, yes. Transformation. Getting people aligned. Mindset of people. Yes, sir. Okay, great. All right. So what do all of these lovely problems have in common? People. Biggest challenge. It's not the process. Agile's not a tough process, is it? It's an exciting process. But it's these darn things that get in the way of that. So let's look at some of our little characters. We got characters, don't we? We got all these characters that we're dealing with, and our biggest challenge is how do we get all of these characters to function well together? So why are people such a big challenge? Mentalities, right? But I'll just put some up here. We've got different languages. We've got different communication styles. We make decisions differently. We have different disciplines and accountability expectations. We've got different definitions of success. What else? Different what? Goals. Yeah, different goals. Yes, ma'am. Different upbringings. Yes. Cultures, behaviors, lifestyle. Difficult bosses. I think that's something we all have in common. That's a unifying factor for people. We will all unify under that flag. Yeah? So all of these things make it really challenging. And most of you who are in the room are in positions of coaches and leaders, aren't you? You've got people underneath of you. You've got people that you are charged with helping to develop them and change them and grow them and enhance them. So you're tasked with a really big responsibility when you think about all the different things that kind of polarize us and pull us apart. So how do we go about creating unifying factors? How do we go about this? So what I like to talk about is creating cultures within cultures. So basically what I'm saying is reducing some of the things that tear us apart to find the things that pull us together. We joke about the tough bosses, but have you ever seen a group of people talk about a tough boss? They're really unified, aren't they? They're enthusiastic about how bad that person is. They get passionate. They come up with solutions. What can we do about this very bad boss? And when you see them tackle a problem that they're all unified, they have a lot of passion and a lot of energy, don't they? And you think, why can't I get them to take all that passion and energy and go this way with it? Anybody ever ponder that? So how do we create cultures within cultures? How do we create those unifying factors that help our teams to perform better, to work under more of an understanding and a tolerance and a patience for others, as opposed to really looking at all of these things that pull us apart and focus on those things? Wouldn't that be amazing if we could alleviate some of that every day? It would be amazing if we could speak more honestly, if we could speak more openly, if we had more common connections instead of always fighting against all of the things that are different. So that's what I want to talk about today. And I'm going to ask you some questions as we go along. So, be prepared to participate. Don't let your brains go to sleep. And the other thing that I'm going to tell you about this is some of you are going to say, yeah, we know all of that. We know all of that. And this is the really tough part about being coaches and leaders, is there's no new information. You're like, oh, darn, why did I get up? But there's really no new information, is there? All there is everything you already know, and the key is to take what you know and to do something with it. Had a great discussion with a few of you yesterday about how much stuff you have in your brain, but yet you still go back to the same old patterns. And it's in conferences like this where some of that stuff gets reactivated and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. So what I want you to do this morning is I am not going to put up any new magic formula for how to do this. Not going to put up any new magic formula. But what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to think about the situation that you're in. I'm going to ask you to think about what you're doing. And I'm going to ask you to just, be aware of what you're hearing today. And can some of the things that you're hearing today help you be a more effective leader? Because there is no magic formula for dealing with people. It's about getting better and better and better at understanding them and how to develop them more effectively. So, are you ready to dig in? Are you ready to think about what you're doing? So let's dig in. So when we're talking about cultureless culture, the best thing that you can do is create a few ground rules. Because each individual person has expectations, don't they? Each person that you work with, whether you're working as an external leader or coach, or whether you're working as an internal leader or coach, every person that you work with has expectations. So the main thing that we try to do when we're talking about cultureless culture is to create some ground rules, common ground rules that we all agree to. Now, these are just some examples. These are some of my favorites, okay? We talk about open, honest communication, and I'm going to go through that quite a bit, because although that sounds very logical, it doesn't really happen, does it? Open, honest communication does not happen very often. It is a very, very difficult thing for people to do. We talk about having FaceTime. What do you think FaceTime means? And I'm not trying to give Apple a plug, but what is FaceTime? Yeah, it's face-to-face, and we're going to talk about why face-to-face communication, and even when you're remote, using tools that allow you to see someone's face, why that is so very important in creating cultureless culture. We're going to talk about problem solving. Different cultures problem solve different ways, and for those of you who are working in multicultural environments, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Some cultures are very, very, very direct and fast. Others, it is culturally not acceptable to make decisions quickly. You must think about it. You must walk away from the table. You must come back at a later time. So having an understanding on what we're going to agree to in our problem-solving process is really important. Agreeing on the freedom each team will have to have cultural considerations. When I first came to India, so for those of you who don't know, I've been in India for 3.5 years. And when I came here, I was working in multiple cities. So I lived in Mumbai, but I was working with Delhi, Bangalore, Kolkata, Ahmedabad, Chennai, Cochin, Goa. And every city that I went to, they said, "You don't understand. We are like this. And when you go there, they are like this." And I said, "Oh, come on." And I did not believe them. And I got kind of pressy and very American, right? "We are going to do this, and you will all behave like this." Do you think that worked? No. When Kolkata says they are going to shut down for 10 days at holiday season, I thought they were kidding. They really shut down for 10 days at holiday season. It's beautiful, but I thought they were lying. That was a really rough first year for me, let me tell you. So we have to agree on where we are going to have the freedom to have some cultural considerations in each of our groups. Because that's really important, isn't it? Really important. Work hours are different. How many hours of the day we work is different. How many holidays we take are different. How many days of the week we work are different. There are so many cultural considerations just around expectations about how we use our time. And then, of course, we have to just remember that no one is successful in a project if we are not all successful. Would you agree with me on that? And what I see often happens in teams is they get very, very, very prideful of their little area. And they say, "We did our part. They did not." Now, when you get into that kind of a mentality, how successful are we ultimately going to be? Not very much, right? Not very much. So I want to talk about how we have to change and we have to agree that we are going to only be successful if we are all successful, and how you deal with that when you're talking about multicultural teams in different locations, and even your own local multicultural team. I've seen even that division within local teams, that they seem to have this belief that we can be successful while you fail. And that doesn't really work, does it? So let's talk a little bit about open, honest communication. Somebody tell me what you think that means. What does that mean? Transparent? Don't hide the facts. Bringing the real issues to the table? Without fear. That's a good add-on. Okay, there was yes. Yeah, heart-to-heart communication. Yeah, and there was a gentleman here, yes. Yeah, having the freedom to speak your mind. So, when we talk about open, honest communication, this is very difficult, isn't it? Very difficult, because there's a lot of things that happen in the process of trying to decide whether or not we should tell someone the truth. We think about how will it sound, what does it make us look like? We think about how will they feel about it, will they take it? How will that shift the dynamics between the two of us? Some cultures get very fearful of disappointing others, so they don't want to say anything, and they don't say anything, and they don't say anything, and they don't say anything, and then what happens? Somewhere down the way, you have got a huge mess, don't you? Huge mess. So, it's really important that we understand what open, honest communication. And open, honest communication, I'm going to tell you, does not mean to be so direct that you do the same exact damage that you would do if you said nothing at all. Right? It does not mean to be so direct that you actually put that relationship in jeopardy. You have to have a little bit of insight into how to have these kind of communications. So what we need to do when we start is we have to clear space for it, okay? You have to clear space for it, because this may not be the way you have typically dealt with people or the way that your team has dealt with people. We have to clear space for it. We have to have somewhere along the way, in a moment of peace and calm, that conversation to say, this is the way we are going to agree to speak to each other and how we are going to deliver information to each other. And we agree to it. Okay? Once you agree to things, it's very easy to put that into your dialogue. So for instance, let's just say you have something really difficult that you have to tell someone. Really difficult. Your team has really messed up. Okay? And I have to tell you about it. I would probably start the conversation out something like this. Do you remember that conversation that we had where we agreed to have open, honest communication with each other? And the person will say, yeah, I remember that. I say, okay, I need to tell you something. Okay? And you tell them. So basically what you're doing is you're clearing the space for that. You're opening up that channel. You don't really know what kind of a mood they're in or what has happened to them, so you need to make sure that you sort of test the water a bit before you deliver the information. The point, though, is to deliver the information, not to sit on things. Now, the opposite is also true. How many times do people tell you you've done a great job, or that they have appreciated your team, or that they've given you that feedback of how appreciative they are for what you've done? Can you remember the last time that ever happened to you? So open, honest communication works both ways. It isn't just about how we deliver the tough news or the, maybe challenging news. It's about how we communicate with each other openly. Our appreciation, our thanks, because that doesn't happen enough. We get so focused on the doing, we forget to appreciate one another. Now, once you have started to appreciate one another, does it make it a lot easier to have dialogue about the tough stuff? Yeah, you're in a different kind of relationship, aren't you? If the last 10 messages that I've given you have all been positive, and now all of a sudden I got to deliver kind of a not so nice one, are you a lot more in relationship with me to hear that kind of news? Are you a lot easier to problem solve with me? Or when you don't hear all of that stuff, you tend to just kind of pounce. Yeah, I knew you were going to let me down. So what we want to try to do is get into relationship with each other. The other thing we have to do is determine what yes means. What do you think I mean by what does yes mean? Perhaps? Yeah, because here is the one thing that I have been really shocked by in my journeys around the world. Yes does not mean yes everywhere. Yes. Yes does not mean yes. Now, as an American, when you tell me yes, I go, great, you got it, and I'm on to the next thing, right? And I am assuming that whatever you said yes to, you're doing. Now, imagine my shock when I find out that your yes actually meant no. Or maybe. Imagine my shock. Yes, but later, right? So what yes has come to mean a lot of different things. Yes may be, I just want you to go away. Yes may mean, I really am saying no, but I don't want to disappoint you. Yes, maybe I have no idea and I need to think about it. But yes. So it is really important that when you are having this discussion about how we're going to work together, have a clear understanding what yes means. Would that make your life a lot easier if there was a clear understanding of the word yes? Yes. So this one tiny little word creates more problems than any other word I have ever run across. Would you agree? Yes. So this is really important. And I don't, and I have only learned this as a result of working here. This is how I learned that yes does not always mean yes. So when we are setting ground rules, have clear understanding of language. When people tell me yes, you'll hear me say, now do you really mean yes? I follow up with a question now every time. Do you really mean yes? Do you really mean yes? Do you really mean yes? And if they say yes, then I clarify, okay, so I can expect this by what time and date? Great. I clarify now. Because my very American outlook is when you say yes, I can go about my day. So that is one thing I'm going to really encourage you to do with your teams. Clarify yes. And when you start to do that, you're going to find where they really mean no, where they really mean maybe, or where they really are meaning I don't want to disappoint you. And that's going to allow you to get into a much better conversation with them at a time when you're not stressed out. You see how that works? Would that be helpful? Just this one little thing, if you think about how your day goes with your teams, would this one little thing help you tremendously? Do you really mean yes? Now, the other thing, when you're trying to work in a cultureless culture, so you're trying to reduce our differences, is to ask for permission. Now, what do you think I mean by asking permission? Let's just say you have some sort of not so great news. What do you think that I mean by asking for permission? Okay, say that really loud for me. Okay? Would anybody be scared if that guy came to you and said, I need to give you some feedback? Is this the right time to do it? Anybody scared? No. Yes. Now, I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm going to give you a little different language, okay? Because you've got the right thought exactly. Yeah, I mean, yes, we want to clear the space, right? You want to clear the space. Because if somebody's working furiously to a deadline and I come up to you and say, I need to give you some feedback, do you have time? No, and I will mean no. No is universally pretty much no. That's the one beautiful thing about that word. We do not have to worry about clearing that up. So you're absolutely right, sir. We need to clear the space for it, and we need to make sure that we're delivering that message in the right way, the right time, the right attitude, right? So what you said something about showing respect, having respect for that person. Now, I know you're all sitting there saying, but I need to tell you. Okay, so this is the other thing I'm going to say. Don't be in this mode, okay? You have to decompress. A lot of times our big mistakes when it comes to culture and understanding of each other is that we have such a high amount of emotion going on inside of us that we just run right over the top of everybody else and what they may need or think. I will just take you out at the knees because that makes me feel better. I have delivered the message, do with it what you will, and we go about our day. Have you ever done that? Uh-huh. Some of you are saying no. Really? Everyone in your life thinks you treat them with 100% respect all the time. So, when we talk about asking for permission, it's really, really simple. It's about saying, I need a few minutes of your time. When would be good for you? I need to give you some feedback. Would that be okay? Come to my office. I want to talk to you about what time would work for you. Okay? It's about asking permission, because a lot of times what we do is we go too direct, and there's a lot of cultures that do not appreciate being overly direct, do they? Overly direct does not work. It is considered rude. It is considered to get into my personal space too much. So we need to be very cautious about that, and there is not a culture in the world that doesn't appreciate professionalism. Americans like very direct communication, but we don't want you to be rude about it, right? So asking for permission when we're speaking. All of these things will help you to use the right language also. When we're in a very emotional state, or we're in too big of a hurry, or we are too whatever, does your communication come out in the way that you hope it always will? No, it doesn't. We make mistakes, don't we? We use language that's a little too hard. We speak a little bit too fast or too loud. We come across as too pressy. We come across as angry. All of those things can be easily misinterpreted. If I speak too quickly, which Americans are known to speak too quickly, I get told all the time, slow down. I just get excited and I talk too fast. But what that does is that speech, that fast speech, makes some people feel very edgy, makes them feel very pressured, makes them feel like I'm coming down too hard on them. So when we talk about open, honest communication, this is actually setting the stage for how we will talk to one another, when we will deliver information, how we deliver information, and we set the stage that it is okay to deliver bad news in a timely manner. Now, if you think about all the things you're working on, and if you think about all the people that you work with, would it be really, really useful as a coach and a leader to have information in a timely manner? Are most of the problems that you're working on is because you don't have the information on time? You're finding out about things too late, and it's a bigger problem than if you would have found out when you needed to? So this is what's going to set the stage. And I'm going to tell you that this works well for any relationship you have, full stop. Your kids, your spouses, your friends, your family, your colleagues, your leaders, your bosses. This works well for everyone. It's just about getting in the habit and learning how to do it in an effective manner. Now, when we talk about FaceTime, when we talk about face-to-face communication, whether it is through some piece of technology or whether it is through actually sitting down with someone, what is the value of FaceTime? Why is it good for me to see your face? Expressions, feedback, body language. Yeah, you know if they're actually paying attention. Have you ever had a call? Okay, so let's just say you're using Skype and someone doesn't turn their camera on. And you can hear all kinds of stuff going on. You may hear cereal crunching. Anybody ever had a call where you knew they were eating cornflakes? Is that not like you're sitting there going, what are you doing? So you know the person is sitting there in their pajamas eating cornflakes. Huh? Or worse. Yeah, oh yeah. Let's not even get into that. Did anybody else's brain go to a really bad spot with that comment? So FaceTime, it's really, really important that we get regular FaceTime with people, especially in two situations. when we're in a rather new relationship with someone and when we're working with someone from a different culture from our own. Being able to read some body language is going to give you an indicator of if you're on the same page. Am I really getting yes means yes? Or am I getting yes means something else? You'll be able to see it in their face. If I'm delivering information and I can watch what your expressions are doing, I'm going to know where to stop talking. Have you ever realized that when you're on the phone with someone, you tend to talk a lot more than you ever do with a person when you're in space with them? Why is that? Why do we talk more when I'm on the phone than if I am sitting and having a cup of coffee with you? Yeah, you're not worried about it, which could be good or bad, right? You don't know when to stop. Yeah, you just keep talking, right? Because if it's someone that is not giving you any response, having a pause on the phone is really uncomfortable, isn't it? So we end up just talking and over-explaining and repeating ourselves. And how effective do you think that is? Maybe not at all, right? The way that they interpret that could be like, my gosh, does this person think I'm stupid? He's already said this 5 times, I get it. But if they're not wanting to be rude, they're not going to say anything, are they? They're just going to let you keep going, explain it to me again. What do you think happens with your credibility when that happens? Yeah, it comes down, doesn't it? This guy's like, wow, this guy's mental. Right? So your credibility starts to come down. You're not communicating effectively. And in cultures that appreciate pauses, are any of you working with anyone from a culture that appreciates the pause? You've got to give them the pause. They need time to think. They will not respond immediately, will they? They will not respond immediately. It's considered rude. So, we have to be in relationship with people. Now, what does that mean to be in relationship? Now, notice I didn't say in a relationship. Okay? I said in relationship. What does being in relationship with another person mean? Yes, you get some rapport, right? Build trust. Thank you. Yes, building trust. That is one of the key components of relationship, isn't it? That I've got trust with you and I have earned credibility with you. Notice I say earned. Credibility doesn't always come right away, does it? If you're working with someone new from another team or you get someone new on your team, you don't just immediately go, oh, you must be awesome if they put you on our team. You don't do that, do you? You're very careful. You're very skeptical. You wonder, how is this person going to change our dynamics? Okay? So, in relationship means that I am developing that rapport with you so I know how to communicate effectively with you. So that all these little tougher things that we have to talk about sometimes, we can do in the time we need to and get the most effective results. Does that make sense to everyone? Yes. Okay, good. Now, next thing, body language. So we talked a lot about that. The face is an amazing tool, isn't it? With one look, I can tell you whether I like you, whether I love you, whether I hate you, whether I think you're stupid, whether I think you're funny. With one look, I can give you a lot of information, can't I? The way that I use my eyes, the way that I smile, I can give you lots of information. So that importance of FaceTime cannot be overlooked. And one of the things that I see happening in companies a lot is we've gotten really heavily dependent on 2 things: email and text messages. Now, text messages are the most dangerous things ever, aren't they? Have any of you ever misinterpreted a text message? All the time. Because they seem so abrupt and it's easy to sound mad. Even the simple word of okay. Because it could be okay, it could be okay, it could be okay. Lots of different ways that okay could be. And depending on where you are, you're going to interpret it the way you want to. And how worried you are about what their reaction to it is going to be. Anybody ever got a text message from a spouse that said, okay? And then you had to wonder, this is like the word yes. Is it really okay? Am I in big trouble? Am I walking into a big storm when I go through the front door? So when you think about body language, it becomes really critical that I have some understanding of you. So when I get the text that says, okay, I have context with you, don't I? I am in relation. I am going to be much more likely to interpret that one simple little word of okay or yes if I know something about you and I know how you tend to react to things. But I will only have that if I have some sort of FaceTime with you. So this is where, no matter how busy we are, no matter how fast things are going, in my class, we had the question come up a lot. How do I make time for this? How do I make time? So here's what I'm going to say about it. How much time do you waste trying to figure out what okay means? Or misinterpreting the word okay, and so now you create a big problem because you thought okay was they were pissed off, and now you're trying to make them not pissed off when they really were okay. Anybody ever had that situation? Yes. Yeah? So, can I get into relation with you so that when we're going about our day and we're moving at the speed of light and I say okay, you go okay. So, body language, really important to get some context of a person. Be present. What does be present mean? Yeah, be here. Yeah? Don't be eating your cornflakes. Right? I've set up a time with you to have FaceTime with you. I want to be in relation with you. I want to see you. When you shut off your camera and eat your cornflakes, how do you think I feel about that? Are you present? Go ahead, tell me, are you present? No, you're eating your cornflakes. You got a million things on your mind. Okay? So, when you have that opportunity to slow things down a little bit and really be with someone, be with them. When we think about all the things that we do in our day, so, there's the beautiful 2 tea breaks a day, right? Where kind of everybody just chills out for 5 minutes. Those are great times to be present with someone. Hey, bring your tea and come on. Come into my office for some tea. Sit there for 5 minutes and be with them. Because when I create that relationship with you, everything else gets a lot easier. Have you ever thought about people that you really know extremely well? And all the little things that they do to irritate you? You're very forgiving of all of that, aren't you? Oh, that's just the way they are. It almost becomes a joke sometimes. Now think about someone you don't know very well, and if they do one little thing, what happens? That's it. There's something really wrong with that human being, right? When you know someone well, you are much more forgiving. They are much more forgiving of you. When you don't know someone well, one little misstep takes the whole thing on a totally different tangent, doesn't it? So when you're working with people, it's really important that if we want to reduce the amount of misunderstandings we have around culture, language, expectations, decision-making, all of those things that we talked about on that first slide, we have to actually get into relation and be present with people so that all those little subtle nuances of the differences between you and me don't become huge gaps that allow us to not work effectively together. Does that make sense to everyone? Now, I want you to just be thinking about a few people that you're working with right now. Have you been present with them? Is the problem you're having with them because you don't understand them well enough to effectively work with them? Because somewhere along the way, maybe you just decided it's not worth trying to know that person. So we don't. And the problems that we have with them just seem to be kind of ongoing irritations. I'm not going to say that it's bad, but maybe they're just ongoing irritations. I just don't understand that person. Have you ever tried to be present with that person to work it out? It's always amazing to me when you have those situations and you sit down with them and you find one common thing, it changes everything. Have you ever sat down with someone that you thought you didn't really like so much and you found out you went to the same school? What happens? What happens? Yeah, you find that one common thing, and all of a sudden, everything changes, doesn't it? It all changes. And here's someone you may have not been getting along with for a long time, and all of a sudden, you find one thing. Your daughters go to the same school. Okay, Saturday, let's go. We're both going to be, okay, great, I'll see. This is someone you didn't get along with for years. Now your best buddy is going to something on Saturday. All because you found one common point. And this is why it's very, very important that you get present with people. And I do not care if they're people that sit in your office, if they're people that sit across the country, or if they're people that sit across the globe. The amazing thing about people is there is something you can find in common with everybody. Last night we had about 45 people in the room, and there was one common unifying factor of everybody. We had people that love food and love photography and mixed martial arts and every kind of hobby you can imagine, but there was one unifying factor. And so for the people that were here last night, what was our unifying factor? We were passionate about coaching. And I'm so thankful that after last night, most of you got up this morning. Thank you. So being present with people changes a lot of things. And no matter how much of a people person we all claim to be, we still make mistakes in this area, don't we? When people say I'm a people person, it usually means I'm a people person with the people I like. It doesn't mean I'm infinitely curious about all people. It means I'm a people person with the people that I really like and enjoy. If I don't like and enjoy you, I tend to isolate you. Now think about what isolation does in your work teams, in your work groups, in people that you're coaching. You think that if you don't really like someone and you're tasked with coaching them, how effective do you think you are? That's a hard one to admit, isn't it? You're not going to be very effective with them if you don't like them. So it's really important that we learn how to do this effectively. Okay, now, this is my favorite weapon. This is my favorite weapon of all time. It's really hard to resist someone that is smiling at you, isn't it? You can be pissed at me all day long if you want to be, but when I smile at you and I get in relationship with you and I am present with you and I am listening to you, how mad are you going to stay at me? Not long. Try this with your spouse sometime. They'll be like, yeah, what's wrong with you? Why are you smiling at me like that? This is one thing. Okay, we get too serious. Would you agree we tend to get really serious? Agile is very serious business, isn't it? And it shouldn't be, right? This is a process that allows you to figure out how to be innovative and how to get the best out of people. This should be something we are absolutely laughing all the way to the bank every day about it. Because it is completely 100% designed to bring out the best in people. About making relationships work. So when you are finding that, wow, I'm getting really, this work is really important and really serious and I have a problem and you're going to work in your car and you're thinking about all these millions of things I have to do today. Here's the one thing that I will tell every leader: if you want to change the way your organization sees you, when you park that car and you are just burdened with it all, and you're like, oh man, it's Monday, and I gotta go, and I gotta do this, and I don't want to get out of bed. Many of you did not want to get out of bed, right? And I'm bringing all of this, and my daughter was upset, and this didn't happen, and the homework didn't get done, and my wife is upset, and my husband is upset, and everybody's upset, and I'm driving to work, and it's just, and now I got to go deal with all these people. Here's the one thing that I'm going to tell you to do before you ever walk into that building. You park the car, you take the mirror, and you flip it down. You take a look at yourself, and you put this on your face. Once this is on your face, then you go into the building. Okay? Because what they see, they will interpret. If you carry all of that into work with you, what do you think they see? Not approachable, upset, avoid at all costs. Oh my gosh, I have a meeting with him in 5 minutes, and look at that, right? So, you have to remember that the smile is going to go the long way. You have to be approachable. If you want information on time, if you want people to give you what you need, you have to be approachable. Coaches and leaders must be approachable. You have got to be in the right space to notice what is going on around you. When you start to notice all the cultural differences, it's very easy to navigate it when you're paying attention. When you get into serious mode, not paying attention, you are going to miss all the information that they are giving you. Would you agree? Now you don't want to say yes, because you know if you say yes, I'm going to you mean it. And we have to understand and appreciate the power of the pause. If I ask you a question, I have to give you time to answer me. We did this beautiful little experiment last night where I said people are uncomfortable in pauses, and they're like, no, and I just shut up. And within 2 seconds, everybody was looking around and smiling uncomfortably and squidging in their seats, and that wasn't even a serious moment. And you have to understand how to use pauses so that people can get some space with you. You're coaches and leaders, so you know all the answers, right? Your tendency may be to tell. Don't tell. Ask and wait. This is one of the things when you're trying to create a cultureless culture, you must give people time to give you feedback, to give you an answer, to respond, to think about what you've said, to think about and articulate what they really want to say, and to say what they really mean. When we don't do that, do you think we make a lot of mistakes? When I've listened to half of what you say and my brain already has the answer and I jump in and cut you off, may I have just made a very big mistake with you? So we have to be in the frame of mind and aware of how we communicate so that I give you time to answer me and to think about what you really want to say. When we do that, is our communication a lot more effective? And in doing that, no matter what culture you come from, if you're given the time to think about what you really want to say and say what you really mean, no matter what culture you come from, are we more effective? Absolutely. Now, this is one of my favorites. Kill the monster when it's little. What does kill the monster when it's little mean? Yes, deal with the problem when it's really little. Don't wait until it's great big. And when we have ground rules, when we start talking about cultureless culture, this is what we're really talking about. How are we going to communicate so that we make sure that little problems are dealt with at the time that they're little problems? And we don't just say, oh, it won't be anything, and we sweep it under the rug. And we put the rug down and we kind of stomp on it to make sure it stays underneath of there. And before too long, what happens? It creeps out, doesn't it? And then you're getting asked questions like, why didn't you tell me? So, put this in your vocabulary. Share this with your teams. Kill the monster when it's little. It's an easy thing to remember. It's a really easy thing to do. And when we have created ground rules for how we're going to work together, how we're going to communicate to one another, this becomes really easy. If I don't have those ground rules and we're not clear on how to communicate, this becomes really, really challenging. Would you agree? How many monsters in your world have gotten really big for no reason? You got some big monsters out there? So this is one of the things that I absolutely live by. If you're a person in my life, if there is even the slightest problem, I will bring it to you before you may even know there's a problem. I am a firm believer in this. I want conflict out of my life. I do not like conflict with people. I want to talk to you about great things, not about nonsense. So this is something that I feel that if teams would just adopt this, instead of feeling ashamed or embarrassed or unsure, we could get a lot more done because we're going to get things out of the way really, really quickly. So kill the monster when it's little. Cultural considerations. So these can be things like work hours, giving space to people, paying attention to them, avoiding stereotypes. Stereotypes really stink, don't they? They really stink. They're really, really divisive. Being patient. How many of you get really impatient with people from other cultures? Okay, from other cities. Okay, from other neighborhoods. I live in Delhi. Did you know that if you live in Delhi, it is a different planet from Gurgaon? Only spaceships go there. So we have to be patient. There is cultural pride in location, language, upbringing, all of those things. And you have to be really patient, and you have to give people the space to express those things without getting in the way of communication and projects. So, paying attention so you know how to read the cues. Because when I first came here and people would say, oh, those people from Goa, they just got a whole different pace down there. And I was like, oh, come on. No, they really have a different pace. And I didn't believe it until I went there. And that pace is contagious. Have any of you ever been to Goa and you just realize you can hardly go fast there? Right? There is a need to have consideration and to listen and to not just dismiss, but be mindful of stereotypes. Because you don't know where the stereotype is way bigger than the actual consideration. Okay? And ask a lot of questions. Ask a lot of questions. One of my favorite things is to be infinitely curious about everything. I love to ask questions. I love to find out about you. I love to know what's going on with you, your company, your life, not that I want to know everything, but I'm curious about you. Now think about if you're curious with the people that you work with, if you really get to know them, if you really understand what does it mean to be from Goa? What does it really mean to be an American from the Midwest? I was shocked to find out at this conference that some of you think that all Americans are really, really stereotyped against you. I was like, that actually made me really sad. Because there's not a single person in my community that I know that thinks that at all. Never heard any of that. But it made me really sad. So we have to be really careful about stereotypes. Because it can actually keep us out of relation. If you all think that I think a particular thing that is negative about you, how likely are you to approach me to get into a relationship with me? Oh, she's American. She won't want to talk to us. Yes, I do. I do. So we have to really avoid that, and we have to be patient, and we have to ask lots of questions. Do you see how, if you think about the people in your world that you are maybe not so close to, are some of these things maybe the problem? Or are they just rotten people and you don't want to know them? So when we talk about cultureless culture, this is what we're talking about. Lowering all of those barriers that we put up as a way of understanding people so that I can actually get into relationship with you. Now, winning is not an option in our projects, is it? It's not an option. You can't say, you know what, I don't really like that project, we're not doing it. That's not really an option, is it? If you're tasked with it, you have to do it, and you have to do it to the best of your ability. So when we're talking about cultureless culture, you have to do a couple of things. We have to stop pointing fingers. You have to stop pointing fingers. It's not them, although they think it's you. Right? This is my thing that I do when I say, oh, are we blaming? Not me. Notice I didn't do this. We have to stop pointing fingers. We have to create cultures that say we are going to be successful together. And I am going to get to know you well enough that I know how to get the best out of you so that we can do it. We have to start communicating for understanding. My little example of the word yes. You all got that, didn't you? Now think of all the other things we say and do that are equally misunderstood. If I tell you I'm going to get a project done and I never get it done on the day that I say, am I communicating ineffectively? Yes, absolutely. I'm communicating ineffectively. So we must learn to communicate for understanding, and we must learn to be accurate in our communication. We have to be givers. We have to be givers. You are going to be much more willing to work with me in an open way if I give you the space, if I give you the credit, if I give you the time, if I give you the understanding, if I give you all those things, if I give you my enthusiasm, I give you my friendship. Are you going to be a lot more willing to work for me if I give you all those things? Think about the people that you would literally do anything for. Why? It's not because you have to, it's because you want to. It's because you are in relationship with that person to such an extent, you've got such loyalty, you've got such enthusiasm for them, that you would do almost anything for them. Everybody got at least one person in your life like that? And it's really easy, isn't it? You don't feel like it's a chore or a challenge. It's fun. It's fun. It's fun to work with them. And I'm not necessarily just talking about someone that's, that you're married to or in love with, or talking about someone in your workspace that you have such respect for them and you've worked so hard and long together that you literally can finish each other's sentences, and it's so fun to work together. Now, what if you could just duplicate that? How did you get to that space with that person? It came from all of this other stuff. You spent FaceTime with them. You asked great questions. You got into relationship. You got to know each other well enough that you forgive them almost anything. You cover up for them, don't you? They have a bad day, you cover up. So when we're talking about winning, everyone winning, we've got to be givers first. You cannot expect that people are just going to give to you because they have to. If any of you have ever read or watched anything from John Maxwell, that's level 1 leadership. They give to you because they have to. It's positional leadership. You have the position, they have to do it. At level 1 leadership, they give you their lowest energy, the least amount of talent, and the least amount of effort. You think you're at level 1 with anybody? These things will help you to get to level 2, level 3, level 4 with people. The higher you go up in those relationship levels, the more energy they give you, the easier it becomes for you. So if you've never listened to John Maxwell, I'm going to encourage you, YouTube, just type in 5 levels of leadership, John Maxwell. There's a 30-minute video on the levels. It's an eye-opener. And it will help you figure out exactly where you are with people. And I will tell you, as a room full of people who have spent time being here, I know you want to be in better relation with people. And getting into better relation with people means that all of those cultural considerations that we struggle with so often and so frequently are going to start diminishing in your life. They're going to start becoming, instead of barriers, they're going to start to become things that are learning opportunities, that you're going to get really curious about them, and you're going to become incredibly effective at dealing with them. Wouldn't that be fun? So, I'm going to end my little talk with this. I want to congratulate all of you. You're like, oh boy. But I want to congratulate you because the world is changing, and you are all on the transition team. So with that, I thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day. So thank you. Because I think I talked right through everything.
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Thank you.